At Arizona State University, we've made online education better, smarter, and more personalized so you can go further in your aspiring field.
I decided to pursue medicine once I realized that ASU did have the online program for biological sciences. You're still required to learn the same curriculum. You're still being tested on the same content that anyone would be tested on in person. The comprehensiveness of the program prepared me so well for medical school.
Explore over 350 plus programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is my feature author of the month of January 2026. She is a scared messenger, a sacred messenger, and creator of the Harmony Method. And of course, best-selling author, no other than Miss Robin Clare.
Hello, Daniel. How are you?
I'm fabulous, Miss Robin. And thank you so much for saying yes to be my feature author of the month of January. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yes. So, hello, everybody. My name is Robin Clare, and I am the author of 5 books. And my books are based on spiritual concepts and connection to the divine realm. My books have been written at the request of the Ascended Masters, and so they follow a path. They actually follow my path of recovery from 40 years of addiction with food disorders, including bulimia. And so I've written, I just published my latest book called Harmony, The Frequency of True Success. And I find that all of my books have led to that. And in addition, Daniel, I'm also a writing coach. So I have also another unique perspective on the writing process itself.
Miss Robin, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you. Your books range from success philosophy to inner divinity, the trauma release. What is the core message or mission that ties all your work together into a cohesive library?
Yes. So I think that I'm kind of really connected to my latest book, The Harmony, The Frequency of True Success, because I've realized that I have been living the journey of harmony, which is 6 stages, which are awareness, commitment, mastery, service, leadership, and freedom. And I believe that each of my books was bringing me to the next stage of the harmony that I was so looking for in my life. And the best way and the simplest way to describe harmony is that when your inner world, your healed inner world, you've healed all what you've been suffering over, the trauma patterns, so that your inner world is at peace and deep love for self, and in acceptance and alignment. And then the harmony happens when you're able to take that the way that you are, this new healed way on your inner world, and express it in your outer world. And I believe that's what I'm doing with my books, is providing an example of how you can move from addiction into recovery, into long-term recovery, and then basically into a life of service to humanity.
A service for humanity, indeed. So, Miss Robin, what is or was there a specific personal transformation or aha moment that acted as a catalyst for you to move from living these principles to writing about them for
Yeah.
a public audience?
Well, I spent a good deal of my life in corporate America, But I knew that there was something else I needed to do. So I spent about a year on my deck every night asking the same question. How can I be of greater service to mankind? And I didn't know that at that point I was jumping on what I called my spiritual fast track. And then I just started doing my healing work and traveling. I went to an ashram in India, and then I just received guidance in my own meditations that it was time to write the first book, which is Messiah Within, A Guide to Embracing Your Inner Divinity. And the premise of that book is that we are each the Messiah of our own lives, that we don't need to wait for the Messiah to come or rely on some other entity. The kingdom of God actually resides within each of us.
Interesting, Miss Robin. Harmony uses the metaphor of frequency. How did that specific concept become the central framework for the book, and did it change how you structured the writing itself?
Yeah, so I want to say that, and this is interesting for all your writers, sometimes I wasn't ready to write my books, but I wrote them anyway. For example, Feast and Famine, Healing Addiction with Grace, which is one of my books, I was still in addiction when I wrote the book. And then I finished the book because I was asked to write the book from the divine realm. But I wrote the book and I ended it and I was like, I hope this works for you. It didn't work for me. Have a nice life. But I knew I couldn't publish it until I actually came into recovery myself. And once I did, I could publish the book. So the harmony, the frequency, it is, all of life is a frequency. And I believe that the concepts of harmony can be applied to any aspect of our life, whether it's healing, creativity, politics, relationships, money management. So that's why I think it's a frequency of true success, that you can use the harmony method to find how to achieve what you most desire.
Interesting, Miss Robin. On process and craft, walk us through a typical writing day for you. Do you have a rituals or a specific environment that helps you to tap into spiritual and meditative headspace your books require?
Yeah, so I think I shared earlier that I'm also a writing coach. And what I tell my clients is the same thing I tell myself. You must, once you're in awareness, which is the first step of the harmony path, and you know you have to write this book, the next step is commitment. And the commitment is really required, Daniel, because if you don't make the commitment to write it, you'll never get it done and it'll become something frustrating. And if you don't make the commitment to write it, you can't move into a state of mastery where you start learning and becoming the teachings that you're writing about. And so that those three have to happen first before you can bring your book out into the world as a service tool. And for me, from the moment I make a decision, I'm going to write a book, I put 1 hour a day, every day on my calendar. And I truly try to live up to that. Whether I'm just writing, I get to write a title or do some research, or I'm really engaged in writing. I find that you have to put the time on your calendar or many other things will take its place and you won't get the book done.
Miss Robin, your titles are incredibly evocative. Messiah Within, Surrender Your Story. How important are titles to you, and what point in the writing process do they usually emerge?
Well, because I am a sacred messenger, when I have been given the idea to write the book, I've been given the titles as well. So one could say that I'm really listening to my own intuition and knowing that these are the titles for the book. Even Surrender Your Story was an interesting one. I every year at New Year's Day, I ask my spiritual team in my meditation, what should I do this year? And I heard three words: surrender your story. And I said to myself in my meditation, which one? And then I heard all of them. So that's what I did. And so I said, oh, this sounds like a great title for a book. And so Surrender Your Story is actually an anthology. And I gathered other authors that I know and respect, and I asked them to write a paragraph in this, not a paragraph, sorry, a chapter, a chapter. That'd be a very long book, right? A
Mhm.
chapter in this book. And so this is I wrote in this as well, and Elizabeth Hill wrote, my co-author, but then we have these other wonderful people that are each owning a chapter in the book. So that's another way to write a book. You don't have to write it yourself, right? If you have an area of expertise, but then you know others, maybe you can gather folks to write the book with you, a book anthology.
Yes. So, Ms. Robin, King Solomon speaks is framed
Yes.
as a meditation journey. How do you approach the craft of writing guided meditations versus the more
Yeah. Yeah.
expository or narrative prose of your
Yeah.
other books?
Yeah. So this one, King Solomon Speaks. Yeah, that one came in an interesting way. It was, again, a message that I received that King Solomon needed his army of spiritual seekers to really come into to truly embrace their spiritual path. And so these were just meditations that I downloaded. And I didn't know whether it was a book, Daniel, or it was just the meditations. So it's always remained a series of meditations. On another book that I wrote, The Divine Keys, came after Messiah Within. And again, another interesting story. In a meditation, I received a message that I wasn't living the teachings of Messiah Within. And so I started digging for why is that true? Like, why am I not living the teachings? Why am I not in mastery of these teachings? And then I really spent time with it, and I came up with 18 keys to living a divinely inspired life. And so Divine Keys is a small book of just 18 ways to get deeply connected to your divine source. And for me, the objective was to be able to live the Messiah within, but I thought it would be a beautiful group of teachings to share with the world.
Interesting, Miss Robin. And which book presented the biggest emotional or technical challenges to write? And what did you learn about yourself as a writer in overcoming it?
Oh, yes. Well, one of the things that I learned is that writing spiritual books, I don't know if it's different than writing other books because I've never written other books, but there is a method to writing spiritual books, and the method is that you have to write from your heart. If you're writing from your head, there's a chance that your ego is going to jump in and it's going to start saying, "Oh, that's boring. Who would want to read that? I don't even want to read that." But when you're writing spiritual books, you have to drop down into your heart and write from there, so that you take the ego out, so that you're just writing pure divine consciousness, and really being truthful with your own story.
On specific works and collaboration, Miss Robin, surrender your story involves other women's trauma narratives. What is your process for curating, editing, and presenting these deeply personal stories with the care and respect they deserve?
Yeah, yeah. This was a group of brave women, that said, I'm gonna surrender my story. So, or they had already surrendered their story. So, we all have stories, Daniel, in our lives that, uh, whether we've created the story, or it may be something our parents said about us, or society has said about us, and then it blocks us when we have these stories. It blocks us from living our true nature. And so this is a group of women that we're able to look at what is the story that they're telling about themselves. What kind of victim are they? A lot of women carry a lot of stories of victimhood, and so they needed to really look and say, where was I a victim, and then how did I turn that around, and how can I make this a teaching tool for other women and men, for sure. And so this is their story of realizing that they had a story that they were telling that wasn't serving them, and so they surrendered their story in this book and shared it with the.
Okay, Miss Robin. That is interesting indeed. So, as a best-selling author, what is your short-term and long-term goals?
My short and long-term goals. I'm
Please.
not really sure. I definitely will keep writing, and but I don't know. I never know what I'm going to be writing, and so whatever I am inspired to write, based upon my own journey, my own spiritual journey, and my own life journey. And so I'm always listening. In the meantime, I'm writing blog posts, and I'm writing other things so that I continue to write. I don't want to lose that writing muscle, but I'll know when the next book is happening. It's almost like it's like a spiritual 2x4 over my head. And it's like, let's go write this book. And then I'm like, wow, okay, but I think one of the things I started to share is that, Messiah Within, this is an interesting story. Messiah Within is 12 steps. And when I was guided to write it, I realized that I had only lived the first 10 of the 12. And so I couldn't finish the book until I lived the 11th and 12th step. And I would say, oh, is that the 11th step? And then when that 11th step came and the 12th step came, again, spiritual 2x4s over the head, there was no doubt that those were the lessons that I needed to include in that book. But it was interesting writing a book without having lived it all, or knowing that something's coming that I would live. So that was an interesting one. And again, I shared in Feast and Famine, Healing Addiction with Grace, which I think is below this list. That one, I wrote a recovery book in addiction. Because what I do, Daniel, is I listen for what my soul needs to do next as a writer. And I'll start writing, even if I don't feel like I know the answers, even if I don't even know if I know the topic. Like with Harmony, I wasn't even sure about the topic when I first started writing about it. But I'm like, well, that will come, because it's almost like when you take the time to write a book, you're still studying it, right? You're still studying the topic. And even today, I was on another podcast, and I said something and I said to the podcast host, thank you so much. That's a level of learning on the harmony method that I didn't know before. So I was really pleased to receive even something now months later after I published it.
Well, Miss Robin, truly, truly empowering goals. And good luck to your goals and looking forward for more success. And what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be a best-selling author like you?
Yes. So I would say listen to your own intuition and know what it is that your soul wants you to write about next. And listen for, and then watch for the synchronistic events that will happen. Once you're on the right path and you're committed to writing it, you'll start to see things happen, conversations, inspirations. You'll hear podcasts that are really inspiring. And then you're like, yes, I'm on the right path. And then you, as I said, you begin to live it in the mastery phase of the harmony method. And then you serve with it, and then you lead with it. You become the leader of that information, which brings you to freedom. And that freedom is the harmony where your inner world, where you're able to express what you know in your inner world into a book. And that becomes your outer purpose, is to share that information.
To share indeed. And thank you for that advice, Miss Robin. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Oh gosh. One of my favorite books is The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. And this is a book that says that we all try to live at our level of brilliance. Like, what are we good at, right? What do we do well? But then there's a level of genius that we can attain. And that is our, and to me, that's our soul's purpose, is our level of genius. And but in between there are things that block us from doing that. So the real work is finding out what is stopping you from living your level of genius and really being out in the world in your highest vibration. And so I had to do a lot of work to come up with what stops me from living my genius. And for me, I'll share with your audience, it was a fear of humiliation, because I had been humiliated so many times in my life that I was afraid of being humiliated if I stepped into the power of my books and the gifts that I have been given to share with the world. But I realized that no one can humiliate me. This was how I got through it. No one can humiliate me unless I give them the title of judge. And if I don't do that, then they're just sharing their opinion with me, but they're not humiliating me. And then that gave me the courage to step into the power of my books or into my genius.
Indeed, Miss Robin. Indeed. Don't care what people say about you. Just do it. Just do it,
Just do
people.
it, right? I like it. Just do it.
Yeah, just do
Right?
it. And
Because it just brings you to it will eventually bring you to a state of harmony where your inner world matches your outer purpose.
if a new reader asks you, which of your books should I start with and why? How would you guide them based on where they are in their life? And thank you for that recommended book.
Yes. So if they're looking for guidance on their spiritual path, I would start at the beginning with Messiah Within, because that started at the earliest point on my spiritual path. If they're not as interested in the spiritual path and they just would like a book on how to become more successful in life, then I would start at the one that just got released, which is Harmony, the Frequency of True Success, and then go back and read the others if they want to.
Miss Robin, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too, comedy 101 in its third season, and my food 101 in its fifth season as well, geography 101, love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 on fourth season, and science 101, sex 101 second season of my baby podcast, mental health 101, law 101, Bible verses, and entrepreneurship 101. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Robin, looking back to this collection, what this or who or what do these books represent about your own evolution, not just a writer,
Oh,
but as a teacher and guide?
yeah, it is everything. I think when I stood out on that deck for a year and I asked, how can I be of greater service to mankind? It was like the universe responded and put me on this path to write these books that could help others to live more peacefully and more inspired. And the one thing about my books that people always say is that they're, they, I'm able to take these, what people might feel are complicated spiritual topics, and say them in a way as if I'm just sitting here having tea with you and I'm having a conversation. And so that's what I love best about my books, is that they're very powerful, but they're simply written. So people shouldn't be afraid of them.
Yes, please read them. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Robin. My feature
Thank
author,
you.
the man of January, award-winning, our best-selling author, Miss Robin Clare. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. And can you please invite our listeners to support all your books?
And ask them to do what?
To support your books, Miss Robin.
Yes, please support my books. And if you'd like to know more about me, please go to my website, Robin H, as in hand, Clare, CLARE.com, or harmonywithrobin.com.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Robin H. Clare, because if you support her, more and more best-selling books will rise. So, Miss Robin, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
Mordika people, see you soon.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.